Boom. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. And today we're going to have a conversation where we explore our guest's journey from politics to entrepreneurship. How about that one? Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a truly remarkable guest with us, a seasoned entrepreneur and the driving force behind Bowe Digital, a renowned marketing agency transforming small businesses nationwide. In this episode, we're going to dive into his journey from his early days in the United States Senate to his leadership role in marketing and real estate industry. We'll also explore his remarkable success in Bowe Digital, recognizing one of the best places to work in Indiana. So let's welcome to the show the one and only Mr. Wayne Stanley. All right, Wayne, welcome to the program, man.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on the Business Bros podcast.
Let's do this, dude. All right, question number one is always the one that we're going to get out the way, man. The obvious one, the plug, dude. What is it that you do for a living? You're on the show to promote to the audience what it is that you do. What is that?
In short, we help small businesses with their marketing all over the country. We help them tell their story, differentiate, and figure out what makes sense in their markets. Everything from logo design and flyers to websites, social media, video, and more.
Who is this identified business that you're after? Are we talking startups at the very beginning? We talking, mid-cap companies, the big boys out there, the Nikes of the world? Who you targeting here?
My favorite thing is that our customer base spans that whole swath of businesses that you just mentioned. So we work with really small one-man shops in rural Nebraska to startup companies trying to figure out how they want to make a splash and get launched, all the way up into, we work with a couple of Fortune 200 companies. So working with that mix allows us to have tools for the smaller guys that we wouldn't have if we didn't have some of those bigger accounts. And then it also allows us to, I think, listen better to our larger customers because we have the smaller ones that we have to really fine tune what we're doing for them.
Yeah, the developing these systems and processes to help these companies is not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, there's different agencies that do different things that have different expertises, but there's a reason that people come to you. Tell me a little bit about your background. I want to know how you got to this point where now you're helping customers with their marketing stuff. Where'd you come from? What'd you do in the past? What was your maybe educational journey like?
Sure. After high school, I went to a small liberal arts college in Indiana called Franklin College, and I got a degree in public relations and advertising with a minor in leadership. And in my senior year of that experience, I was able to get an internship with Senator Richard Lugar from Indiana. And that launched me from Indiana to Washington, D.C. for about a 10-year stint in total. I worked for him as a deputy press secretary, eventually moving up to a press secretary, and finally his deputy political director. And so I got to do a lot of different things at a very young age for him. A lot of people that were in similar roles for other senators were easily 10 years older than me at the time. And so I got to think very differently about all of that. And this is when social media was really starting to grow. This was 2007-ish. So Facebook was a thing. Twitter was barely a thing. Nothing else really existed at that point. And so we were really trying to figure out how to differentiate him as a politician on social media, which other than Senator Barack Obama, not many were doing. But once that experience was over, I worked for a real estate trade association in Washington, D.C., sharpened a lot more of my grassroots skills, marketing skills even more, and was able to meet small businesses in real estate all over the country. And that's really where I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but I kept saying, it shouldn't be this hard for people to market their business. Just because they don't understand the tools that are available doesn't mean it should be difficult for them. And so I looked for other agencies to come into the space. I looked for other agencies to do some of this kind of stuff in the way that I wanted to do it. And none of it made sense. And so finally, Bowe Digital was born in 2017. And now, almost 7 years later, we are working with companies in 40 plus states and have a staff of 21 full-time people.
All right, dude. Going and working with a senator, a sitting senator, and especially in the press area, you must have learned some of the greatest skill sets out there. I mean, if you don't know that politics is about marketing and getting in front of a particular identified group and learn some skills there, that's a huge thing to have that kind of mentor right off the bat. I mean, you even said there's people that you were working with that are 10 years older than you, which means you got a lot of tools and assets that you got to take with you. Now, you could have stayed in the politics game. I mean, let's face it, there's politicians that live in Capitol Hill, and that's it. That's all they do for the rest of your life. You could have stuck it there, but you decided to go off on your own to become an entrepreneur in your own right. Why leave something that was pretty secure? You're in early on. You're kind of a shoo-in in the industry to go off and do something on your own.
Yeah, I knew from a young age I wanted to own my own business. When I was a kid, I would go to my grandparents' house. My grandparents that the company is named after, Grandpa Bowe, and I would get all kinds of little knickknacks throughout their house, and I would create a store in their living room, and I would make them buy back their own belongings. And so my family knew for a long time this is what I wanted to do, but I loved the experience working in the United States Senate. I did learn a lot, and I was able to do a lot. It was a huge crash course in media training and all of that, which pays big dividends in what I do now. But overall, I wanted to create a culture for my company that was indispensable to my team. I felt like that work-life balance wasn't really a thing when I was first contemplating all of this way back when, but I wanted something that allowed people to live their life and live that through their work and not have to work to live necessarily. And so it just became clear to me that this was what I wanted to do, not only because I felt like I had skills on the marketing side of things, but as a leader and an entrepreneur, I felt like I had a lot to offer there.
Yeah, it's almost a different calling. You get bit by that entrepreneurial bug, and it kind of never goes away. You kind of got to satisfy that itch somehow, some way. There are a lot of people today that are finding that entrepreneurship is not only an avenue that can open up some doors. For some people, it's a necessity. They have to make ends meet, and they're turning to some of these things, maybe not selling stuff back to their parents in their living room, but they're finding ways to kind of generate that extra revenue. And you are in a unique situation. You're getting started today. Now that we're very much immersed in technology moving forward, we got AI kind of taking off, a lot of different things like that. What advice would you give to a young entrepreneur getting started today?
I think that the best piece of advice that I was given that I would recommend to somebody else is that a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, they waste too much time delaying their first hire. They don't staff up fast enough because they're scared of the revenue side of things and other implications. And so I was told, don't be afraid to hire people. You're going to need people to grow and to scale. And so that's a big one for me. And then my other one is set expectations with your customers and with your team internally. I think that's a huge thing in life in general that people don't do. And I think that you'll find, a lot more success and a slightly easier path if you communicate and set expectations from not only the outset, but as you go along in your business journey.
What about mentorship? I mean, you were in a unique situation where you got a mentor at a very high level when it comes to your skill set. I mean, literally, you like you said, you took a crash course in public relations, and social media was kind of coming on board. So you were literally thrown to the wolves and said, hey, figure this out, and our campaign kind of depends on it. So make it happen. That's a mentorship that really pays dividends over time. What about finding mentorship or working with people that are kind of out there? I know that takes a lot of time. You spent 10 years doing that, but the benefits that you got out of it were huge. How does mentorship play a role for young entrepreneurs?
I think it's crazy important. Like we all see lots of entrepreneurs that think that they have it all figured out and they've got the best idea, and so they want to run with it and run solo. But I think that the mentorship piece is huge. And I say all the time, there are some key mentors, whether it was in college or the Senate or the Real Estate Trade Association, that really helped me along the way to know not only what I wanted to emulate with my own team and my own customers, but in some cases also what I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be someone who, everything's an emergency, everything is something that's on fire or chaos and that kind of stuff. And so it helped in that way too. And I think a challenge right now for a lot of younger entrepreneurs, and we see this even in our own internship program, they're just afraid to create these relationships, or they think that they're not really sure how to start that or have those conversations. And I think you have to not be afraid to just ask, to say, I'm really interested in how you do this or what you learned here or whatever that may be. And can you show that to me? Can you be helpful in this way? Because most people are more than willing to do that.
It's tough when you get into a business model that is so rapidly changing. There's so many things that are happening. But there's some of those core fundamentals that still kind of play into the different technologies out there. Websites, funnels, you're using AI, there's all kinds of stuff that are these tools in the marketing space that can help you do things. But there's some fundamental things that no matter what tools you're using, you still kind of put in place. You've been at this for quite some time. What are some of those fundamental things or lessons that you've learned along the way that have kind of stand true through the test of time, even though we have all kinds of cool tools that we get to play with today?
Man, I love that question. I think that, there's the Gary V model of things where he encourages especially in the social media space, that you should jump on every new platform and possibility and be the best at it, because if it takes off, then you're going to be at the forefront of that. For most small businesses, for most entrepreneurs, I don't think my recommendation to our customers is you probably don't have to be first to market or first to excel in some of those. Leave that to other companies. Be good at what you're good at. Talk to your customers. Tell your story. I think that's what's most important. I think some of the other fundamental stuff is just, again, on the setting expectations piece. For me, it's constant and consistent communication, not letting people wonder what's happening, not letting things fall through the cracks, and the communication, figuring that out is supremely important. And some people, for their marketing communication, they're always talking about different fads or trends and stuff like that that's happening right now. But I mean, like, bare bones, why you exist. It's always okay to come up with some of that kind of cheeky kind of stuff, but I think in general the communication is super important.
Let me ask you about the digital marketing space, kind of in general, because there are people who are out there building these kinds of companies to get their name out there. And the cool thing is, like I mentioned earlier, there's so many different tools that you can use. When you're building an agency, you kind of want to focus in on one. Even though you might be able to offer your client a number of different things, you get really good at that one thing. Once it's almost like that Trojan horse mentality, right? Once you get into that customer with a particular tool or something that's definitely solving a problem that they have, then you can open the door to more and more things. When you were growing your agency, when you first got started, did you hone in on like one particular skill set that you were really good at and then kind of expand from there? How did you kind of grow and scale your agency?
I would say two ways, and they're very different. One was, for us, social media in general. People don't understand. They either don't understand it, or more likely don't have time for it, or perceive that they don't have time for it. So that was low hanging fruit for us. We can take over your social media engagement, create good content, and have it be successful for you, especially on real estate, within Facebook and Instagram. Those were kind of our two main pieces at first. So that was one that, as far as like an actual service that we provide that is based in some sort of marketing tech, social media was where it was at. But even bigger than that for us has actually been what we call our story arc process, and the ability to differentiate a company. And we would hear from people that we got hired to rebrand a company that's had a good brand for 50, 60 100 years. And we would come on site to do our on-site part of this process, and they would get in my face and say, I just don't understand how you think that after spending half a day with us, you're going to be able to tell a story for our company. And it was a challenge that I loved then, and I love even more now, because every single time we've proven those people wrong when we deliver that story for them. And so I think that our biggest differentiator is learning how to listen, and listen really well to our customers and our customer's customer, which is what allows us to then, in a pretty efficient way, build a compelling, differentiating, and engaging story for these businesses. Especially, not every business is super appealing or sexy, but it's got a customer base. And so you have to figure out how to make it more appealing or make your messaging more efficient and that sort of thing. It's not always recreating the wheel, but that challenge for us of the more intellectual side of marketing is, I think, what we've really honed the most and what people appreciate. And that is an entree into the best partnerships for us. If we do that well once for somebody, they're like, oh, they get us. We're going to use them forever now. We're going to use them for every other service and that kind of thing.
And I want to kind of harp on there. Maybe you can dig a little deeper on that. But for entrepreneurs that are getting started, and a lot of times it's, hey, I offer this product or service. Here's the best offer I probably have. Let's get started. Those are great ways to make some sales. But what is the value in having that story arc? Why is it that a lot of entrepreneurs don't go that deep into their marketing? And what are some of those benefits that they could get if they could really hone in on that story?
Yeah, the way I describe a story is that your story is different. I think a lot of entrepreneurs mistake a story for their mission statement, and I hear all the time, "Well, we've got a great mission statement, and our whole team believes in it. We repeat it all together every staff meeting every week." And I always say, "That's a cult. That's not a story." So the story should ebb and flow and grow and evolve with your company. The story that you had in May of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic is very different than the story you had in May of 2021 versus today. It should be able to evolve with you. But the reason that it's super important is because everybody has blinders on, and we all think that we know what's most important, especially a lot of business owners, managers, C-suite kind of folks. The things that we invest in, we think are the most important, and that's what we should push out. We built this new tool or resource or website, and so that's what we're going to market. That's what we want our customers to care about. But they don't go deeper with their customers to then say, what do you actually care about? And I don't mean this isn't done through the successful story creation is not done through virtual or digital surveys. It has to be conversations, and different ones than what your sales folks might be doing. It's not the what can we do better conversation. That is always there. There's always something that you could do better. Even if you're a 5-star organization, somebody has a list somewhere of things you could do better and different. This is, what do you love most about our company or about our products and services, so that we can make other people love those same things? And it's getting deeper and granular in their answers. So if somebody says, well, we really love, if you're a service-based organization, we really love their communication. We can't let it stop there. We need to know, do you love what they communicate, how they're communicating, when they communicate, who communicates to you? What's the real answer there? Because once you get down to those answers, we sort of hold it up like a mirror and we say, look, this is internally what you think is important. Externally, this is what your customers say is important. How do we bridge that gap and create an efficient story? Because that's going to take you much farther than just, here's the benefits or the perks of my specific product or service. Like you were saying, it's more broadly, here's how we can benefit you. Here's how we've done this. And that's more important these days than ever as a differentiator.
Well, that's where the connection happens, right? That's where the buyer at the end of the day says, okay, look, there's 4 different flashlights, but this is the one that really shines bright and gives me what I'm looking for when it comes to my family and friends and safety and security and whatever it is. Exactly. That's the messaging and the reason why they go after that particular brand versus another one. And I think that's why essentially we're calling this episode, transforming small businesses, because that story right there is taking a business from a product or service to a full story, to the reason why people want to do business with you. When you talk to a lot of these entrepreneurs, what's the pushback you're getting? Why are they not doing this right away? What's stopping them from even taking a story and being like, okay, they see it, they can kind of jive with the story, it makes sense, but they still lack the implementation, because you see that over and over again to actually adopt it. What's the pushback?
I think the biggest pushback for people on either not adopting a story or being slow or feeling like, the story we've had works, that I hear that a lot. Well, we haven't even marketed for 20 years. You're very lucky. A lot of businesses are lucky that for a long time they didn't have to do traditional marketing or very much of it because they didn't have a competitor in their market or that sort of thing. But everything's a little more saturated these days. And so it's worth thinking through that. One of the biggest pushbacks we get is that, longevity can't be your differentiator. It can be one of your strengths and it's part of your story. But when you think about how you are wanting to be indispensable to your customer base, there are other products and services in their lives with way less longevity that are indispensable now. So that part doesn't, if it is a good product or service, they're going to use it and adopt it. I don't always love using the mega company analogies, but Netflix and Amazon and Uber are not 100-year-old companies and yet are indispensable to their customer base. And there's smaller things in your life that I think is that case too. And so for some of our customers, it's a dagger in the heart when I talk about how we can't lead that we have 100 years of experience anymore, because we have to prove that. What does that actually mean? Who benefits that you have that experience? And we've seen really crazy things too, where not just 100 years of service in the business, but also there are companies out there that say, well, we've got over 1,000 years of experience because everybody on our team has been in the industry for 30 years. And I'm like, nobody knows how to equate that to real life. So you've got people that have been doing this for 30 years and it's 1,000 years of experience. Like, some of that gets a little silly at some point. And so that's why it's more important to have the clear and concise story. And usually when we explain it that way, it helps a lot of them break it down more to understand, okay, now I get that I can use a lot of my history as strengths, but it's not our current story. And I think that's something, when I talk about stories evolving and growing for a company, every story, every good book has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And your beginning, your history, all of that is still important. The middle is kind of where you are now. And the end isn't actually the final chapter necessarily. The end is just the chapter that you're currently writing. It's the future facing stuff that you're trying to do as an organization and all of that. And I think once people understand that process more and the why, then there's far less pushback.
Yeah, and it's funny because I literally designed the episode the same way. Like, we're heading towards the end here, and that's kind of where the next question is. And we can talk about your past. We can talk about 20 years ago. You were probably thinking about the next speech you were going to put together, the next PR space you were going to go on, who you're booking on what show for your particular candidate, and then you decided to go kind of off on your own. You're learning the social media stuff. Today, you have an agency that is successful, that you're helping clients all over the board. Where do you see the future of your company? What vision are you writing for in the next couple of years? And do you have like an exit strategy in place, or what's the future hold for you?
That's a great question. And we do an annual company retreat that we just did about a month ago, where I was able to outline this a little bit more, because for us, we've seen at least 30% growth every year for all the years that we've been in business. And there are others that have grown much faster than that. There are others that have grown slower than that. But for us at that pace, sometimes it was hard for me to see what's in 3 and 5 years when so much is changing every 6 months around here. But I think in general, my answer is twofold. And one is, I want to continue to create a future-facing organization internally, meaning that we're using the best tools for efficient and effective communication internally. We're taking care of our team in the way a modern workplace should. We're a fully remote company. We have unlimited paid time off. We're a 4-day work week. We've implemented other things like a mid-year shutdown for mental health and all kinds of stuff like that. And I want to continue to be a place that people want to work, because then the work that we do is that much stronger and more powerful, because we've helped our people become the best people, which means they can put out the best product. And so when that transitions into what that means for the company, I want us to be the best at creating content for our customers. Again, listening to them and figuring out what their story is. That's one piece of it. But just in general, it is changing all the time. Marketing is changing. There are new tools and it's harder than ever. And so as each of those little bends in the road happen, I want us to be right there knowing exactly what the trends are, what's happening, and how do we continue to elevate our customers along the way.
And that's exactly the kind of company that you want to either hire or work for. So if people want to reach out to you, they either want to find out more about what it is you do, maybe you can help them on the business side, or maybe they're looking for a job, maybe joining a team that's super awesome that can work remote like that. How can they do that?
They can reach out to us anytime on our website, which is Bowe Digital, BOWE digital.com. You can feel free to email me at any point at wayne@bowedigital.com as well. And also on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every single day, and that's Wayne M. Stanley is where you can find me there.
Perfect. Wayne, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, look, marketing is it's a must. You got to do this in your business, and there are people out there who can help you do that. And literally, you got a whole episode of finding out what Wayne's background was, what he does for his company, where his company is going. So if it's a choice that you're looking for, maybe you want to give him a shout out, go to the website, bowedigital.com. That's BOWE digital.com. And you can find him on social. Just use his name, Wayne M. Stanley. You'll find him on LinkedIn and different places like that. Wayne, thank you very much for being on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Thanks so much.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started.